Welcome to the Empowered Money Girl, where we break down the barriers to financial confidence, celebrate women's wins, and reveal the secrets to living boldly and well. I'm your host, Josette Mandela. Well, I have a question for you. What would it mean to have the skills to bring millions in funding into your community or organization? Dr. Beverly here to show us how it's done. She's a renowned grant writing expert, educator, and best-selling author, known worldwide for helping individuals and organizations unlock access to resources that change lives. With 54 years of experience training grant writers and guiding clients, including small businesses, nonprofits, schools, government agencies, even Fortune 500 companies. She's helped them secure more than $750 million in awards without burnout or overwhelm. She's the author of nearly 50 publications, including the classic Grant Writing for Dummies and Fundraising for Dummies books that have empowered countless people to find and win the funding they need. And beyond writing and teaching, Dr. Browning is also a founder of Integral Bank in Phoenix, where her vision for supporting communities continues to grow. If you're ready to be inspired by proven wisdom and learn how strategy, perseverance, and vision can open doors to abundance, you'll love this episode. Please welcome the trailblazing, visionary, and profoundly impactful Dr. Beverly Browning.
Thank you so much.
Oh, you're so welcome. So can you take us back to the beginning? What was your path like to get you where you are today?
The very beginning was learning to live with my elderly grandparents, being told constantly that children are meant to be seen but not heard. So I became an avid book reader, and I read everything that I could get my hands on, from children's books to encyclopedias to National Geographic.
Wow, I love that. I was a book learner too. I used to love to dive into books and because it was a way to get away from it all and
Yeah,
have new adventures.
yeah. And I was sickly and I had a lot of allergies then, which I still carry with me. So the books were my place to put my mind in and to travel the world and to look at things that I had no idea existed. The wetlands, the oceans, and how many there were, and how they flowed into one another. That was all very amazing.
Agreed. And that sounds like so much fun, following all those different paths and going different places and imagining maybe someday that you might get to go there. So,
I never imagined that I would get to see some of the things that I actually saw in the books. But I've been blessed and I've been able to travel. And yes, it was a dream come true. The downside of that, I only traveled when I was working, when I was consulting, when I was training. So I had the capacity to book trainings where I wanted to go, places I wanted to see, I wanted to see the United States before I ever left the country to see other places. So that was it was a blessing and a joy to see our own country first.
oh, that sounds like so much fun to be able to take your job and use your job to have all those adventures that you read about when you were a kid.
Yes.
And so how did that come to be that you found a job that let you do that?
Well, it wasn't easy. I started out in retail sales and babysitting as a teenager, and moved on to working in an office. I worked for an insurance company, clerical, these were all clerical positions. I worked for a real estate company. I worked at Sears when it was called Sears and Roebuck.
Mm-hmm.
I worked at our local newspaper in Flint, Michigan, which was the Flint Journal. I worked in the advertising department first, and then I worked in the library where we microfilmed all the articles and saved them for historical purposes.
Oh, that's too funny. That's definitely old school. I bet
Yeah.
there's plenty of people in our audience here that don't even aren't really sure what microfilm is.
I know back in the day, that kind of dates me, I know, but I did learn the value of reading everything in the newspaper, being able to categorize it into where it belonged, and then learning how to use the, microfilming machine to put it into permanent history back then, and to be a part of right outside the newsroom where everything was always a buzz and people were busy and it was exciting. I never dreamed that I would love that job so much.
So, what made you decide to move from that job to something else?
Well, I got married and I needed to make more money.
Ah,
Two minimum wage earners getting married don't equal one solid economic household. It equals layaway, time payment, used furniture, scouring what people put out at the curb in order to put your first household together. So I realized then that I needed to be in college and it was going to be a long, long haul of staying in school, working full time, being a wife, being a homemaker, and just trying to help our family get ahead. Yeah.
so and then I think you stayed in the education area. So I take it you found kind of your home there.
Not so much my home in the beginning. It was an end to a means. It was a way, I want to say that, a way, a journey to a means to earn more money so we could afford a nicer home, nicer things in our home. And I had never dreamed that I would end up being self-employed and, a consultant and an online educator, in-person trainer, educator. None of those things were on my list of what I wanted to be when I grow up. I actually started out wanting to be an urban planner when that was popular, and I'm glad that I didn't go that route because I don't think there's any more positions being advertised for urban planners now. The urban areas are all planned out.
Mhm.
And then I wanted to be a preschool teacher. And so I volunteered in the summertime and worked for a program in the Flint Community Schools in Michigan called the Tot Lot Program. And, 2 or 3 summers of that, and you automatically realize you don't want to be a preschool teacher. So I just kept searching and looking for where do I belong? What do I want to be? I took all of my nursing classes to be a registered nurse. I just never completed the practicum, but that propelled me into joining a one-of-a-kind first program in Michigan for certified pharmacy technicians with the Michigan Pharmaceutical Association and the Hospital Association statewide. And so with that, with all the pharmacology and pharmacognosy that I studied, I ended up working in hospitals in various positions for a total of 14 years while I was still in college, part-time at night. It was interesting. The journey was hard. It was long. I don't know anybody else who spends 12 years at a 2-year community college. But I was there for so long that when it was time for me to file for my papers to graduate, some of the classes I had taken at the very beginning were no longer available, and they weren't going to count those credits And I went to meet with the president of the college and I cried. I broke down in tears and I said, I've been here 12 years. I can't stay any longer. It's time to move on. Waive this requirement. Let me graduate. I don't want to take any more classes just because you no longer offer the classes that I took. So I did graduate and did really well. For me, it was well. I graduated, I think, with a 3.0 from community college. Then I went to a vocational college and studied accounting for 2 years. But I found out that that's a lonely and tedious and boring job. Back in the day, and this really dates my age, I mean, we worked on 10 key calculators, not the automatic kind that we have today with paper running out of them. And then somebody had to check all the numbers. I could hardly stay awake on that job. It was so boring. I think I ended up being there almost 2 years, and I worked for the county. So it was tedious, but I was able to work on my college degree even more, and that helped us as well. And then finally, I went to a 1 year accelerated program that Spring Arbor College out of Spring Arbor, Michigan offered to put all your random college credits together and consolidate them into college credits and lifelong learning experience. And that allowed me to get into a 1 year bachelor degree accelerated program in the management of human resources. So, did I want to manage people? No. Did I want to work in human resources? No. But I took a lot of management classes in that 1 year. And I also became introduced at that time to Spring Arbor and who they were and the values that they stood for and the theology and their affiliation with the Free Methodist Church. So I really hold Spring Arbor near and dear to my heart because I never would have been able to attend a traditional college and get all those helter-skelter credits accepted to have a
Mhm.
bachelor's degree. And then, of course, I went for my master's and I graduated in 1988 from University of Michigan Flint campus. And then my doctorate is honorary from the United Kingdom due to the publication that went pretty heavy and hot there for number one. And that was the first edition of Grant Writing for Dummies back in 2001. So it's been a long, long journey. And in that journey, I hit the glass ceiling and didn't know what it was. I had never heard of a glass ceiling, did not get a promotion, made the compensation of a clerical worker or less, had to
Mm.
fight for a private cubicle or office, and was on a performance-based contract to bring in my public school district $3 million a year, or I would lose my job.
Oh,
So
wow.
2 years in a row, I brought them that money, but I was under a great amount of pressure and stress. And we had a dress code. And you had to wear certain color heels, you had to wear certain color suits, nylons, all the rest. Now, everything was gray or navy or black. Those were the most boring years of my life. And I started to become depressed. I had gotten my
Mm.
master's degree and I didn't get a raise. I was still making less than a secretary, but
Wow.
I still had to bring in 3 million a year. And, I had a talk with human resources, had a talk with the superintendent, and didn't get anywhere, was very discouraged. And so I went to get a counseling session to find out what was wrong with me because I was so unhappy in that position. And I found out that I hit the glass ceiling and I asked my counselor, what is the glass ceiling? And he said, where have you been? And I said, I've been in college since 20 and, and it's a long haul here. So I don't know what the glass ceiling is. And then he explained it to me, you're a woman, you're a minority, and you're not going to go any further with this particular employer. And I said, so what are my options? And he said, well, I can put you on an antidepressant or you can quit. And I said, I don't want to take any medication. Um, I can't quit. My husband's self-employed. I mean, what are we going to do? We need the health insurance. I need my 2 weeks of
Mm.
vacation every year for my sanity. we need groceries. We have a young daughter. I can't quit. And he
Hmm.
said, if you don't quit, this is going to be worse. And you'll be in long-term counseling for depression and anxiety. And I said, so what do I do if I quit? I mean, I don't want to work in another office. I hate dress codes. I'm outside the box, not inside. And he said, well, what have you been doing? And I said, I've been running a part-time business on the side to write grant applications for community agencies. For the first 3 years, I did it free of charge as
Oh,
community service because people helped me go to college. They helped me buy books. They told me when there was an essay contest for a community group and I wrote an essay and I went on stage, and when I read it, I got a scholarship to pay for more books and for, tuition.
nice.
I said I couldn't have finished college without all those people who lifted me up. They were my village, and many of them were strangers, but they heard how long I'd been in college and they wanted to help babysit our young daughter. They wanted to, help me with whatever the costs were to get through college. So I paid back for 3 years and just wrote part-time in the evening in my home. And then I started, my business where I actually got paid. It wasn't very much. And I did it while I was still working at the school district. But the counselor convinced me that I was well enough known in the community and the state that I could let all the other school districts in the state of Michigan know that I wanted to run my business full time and I was going to leave my job. And so I talked to my husband and he said, we'll make it. You can do it. I'll help you. And I said, well, I need a computer. We don't have one of those. I need a copy machine. I'm going to have a monthly newsletter for all the school districts, letting them know what grants are available because there's nothing like that right now. And I'm going to be writing grant applications. So I need a printer too. So a computer, a printer, and a copy machine. And we have $0 in the bank. So he figured out everything. We got everything on credit and lease, and he built a desk in our home in a small bedroom, very small bedroom. I think it was like 6 by 8. We lived in a tiny house, but I had a desk on plywood and concrete blocks,
Hmm.
a used office chair that we found on the curb. Um, Somebody had put it out because it had a torn seat and he recovered it, and that was my chair, and that's how I got started. I gave my 2 week notice and walked out and started, and I've never looked back since then. It's been a miracle, and nobody really understood what a freelance grant writer was, a consultant was, none of
Hmm.
the above. I just had to fight the whole time. Getting that honorary doctorate helped me get some recognition, but I had already written loads of grants that were funded by that time.
What an amazing life. So, it, at what point, obviously that was kind of a wake-up call when you went to the counselor and they said, you've got, basically you've got two choices. You quit the job that's killing you, or you keep doing that job to bring in that income, and I keep feeding you drugs because it's the only way that you're going to survive. And and you decided that, you know what? I think I can make this work. And and you did. And
I didn't even know if I could make it work. I was skeptical of myself, but I gave that 2 week notice the same day.
so that was a pretty bold move.
It was bold for that time because we could have ended up losing our home, our vehicles, our credit rating, everything. We could have been really in bad shape. But I was just blessed. The last day of my employment at the school district, I got a call from the community college and they offered me a golden handshake project to work on during the Christmas break. I quit right before Christmas in 1988, so the second week of December. And they said, we heard that you're leaving the district and we have a project for you. It's a one of a kind. There are no previous examples. You're on your own to figure this out. if you can do this, give us your price, and can you come today before we close for the Christmas break? And I said, well, I'm supposed to work this afternoon, and they're giving me a going away party at lunchtime. And he said, can you come immediately after the party? And I said, well, I don't have anything to lose. I'll just walk out. So I did. And I went there and I named my price. And I'm sure that it was the universe that put an amount in my head, because I had never charged that much for anything. But I decided to go for it because maybe I wasn't going to get another client for a long time.
Hmm.
And they agreed to pay it. And I had to figure out how to write a direct line item allocation proposal to the Michigan governor's office to have millions of dollars put in the new state budget that would have been coming out in the spring, so that the campus could do millions of dollars in campus infrastructure on the outside of the college. And it was
Nice.
funded.
And I'm going to take a wild guess that that project turned out very well.
It did. It turned out well. Plus, I created a little newsletter called Grants Line Incorporated for $99 a month. Michigan at that time, I don't know what the number is now, but they had 585 public school districts. So I mailed an order form to 585 public school, well, not the one I work for,
Mhm.
584 public school districts. And I ended up getting 200 subscriptions at $99 a piece.
Nice.
That gave me the funding to go to Radio Shack and get a TRS-80 computer.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, and a printer.
There you go.
Yeah,
And then I guess they would say, and the rest is history.
the rest is history. I've had recognitions along the way. One of the first recognitions was in the early 1980s, I believe. And it was the state of Michigan and the Clairol Foundation, Clairol as in hair products.
Oh,
And I was a runner-up to first place in Businesswoman of the Year. So that was a nice recognition, a newspaper interview, and that also helped build up clientele for my business.
very nice.
Yes,
So in the early years, your relationship with money was kind of I wish I had some. And
definitely.
obviously it's evolved over your life. So how do you feel your relationship is with money today?
It's not a love relationship, I will tell you that. It is a wary relationship, because I define success as having options. I don't define success as wealth. I am no place near wealth, never wanted or thought about, wow, I want to hit the Powerball or get lucky someplace. I always knew that I would have to work. And what I didn't know was that I would have to work until this age.
So in terms of the working and the wealth, um, but you feel comfortable with where you're at now, and that the universe is providing, and you're getting what you expect and need, let's say.
I would say that at the beginning of COVID, I lost all my grant writing contracts,
Oh,
had nothing. And a few government programs came along, like payroll protection and EIDL loans. And I was able to qualify, and that helped me limp along when I started my live Zoom training online in order to try to get recognition as an online trainer and to bring in revenue. Um, I would say that I have no idea what comfortable financially means, but I will say this. It's not just the universe that provides. I really feel like each of us have a spiritual gift, And if we don't always recognize that gift early on in our life, we kind of bounce all over the place. But when we realize our gift, and it's usually by accident, that gift is a true blessing and it's a financial blessing. So am I well off? Hey, I don't know the definition of well off, you know? We don't own a house. We rent in an apartment complex and it's not some luxury facility at all. It looks like it, but it's not. It's old. It's 27, 28 years old. I feel blessed to have a roof over our head. I feel blessed to have options. I don't buy outrageous things like luxury cars or designer clothing. I don't dress up. That working at that school district turned me against dressing up for anything. Period. It's like no more suits, no more heels. I'm only going to live in tennis shoes and shorts from now on. So I guess my life is plain, it's ordinary, it's simple. There's no luxury in it, and I don't feel like I'm missing anything.
And I think that really is the key, is that there's everyone, like you say, everyone has their own definition of what wealthy means. And I'm with you. I kind of like, the simple life. I don't need the $1 million Ferrari or, any of those kinds of things. There's people that like that, and that's good for them, but that's not my universe. On the other hand, if you're comfortable and doing the things that you want to do and enjoying what you're doing, then I am all for that. And to me, that's wealth, because you're doing what you enjoy. You're not getting up every morning and, like you say, putting on that suit and those high heels because, by God, I have to go to that job and make that $1 million or 200,000 or, whatever that magic number is for the listener is.
Exactly. I cannot conform. I cannot get back in the box for anybody. During COVID, I thought I was going to have to find a job, and that was the most horrifying feeling of all because of my age and that I'm anti-dress up.
Mm.
And that I don't really want to go to somebody's office. And it's like I can be a remote worker, but don't expect me to be on this screen all day. And it's like nobody's going to hire me when I tell them my wish list of what I'm not going to do. So I was able to get through it, and surprisingly was blessed with the opportunity to become founder of a small community bank here in Phoenix, that's doing very well and blessed to build my live Zoom training because I teach asynchronously online. I've been doing that since 2001. But I wanted to do my own training with my own curriculum, the way I wanted to deliver it and have people know about it and sign up. And I'm a very engaged, hovering mom kind of teacher. So not like a college professor or, "Oh, I'm going to fail you." It's like, well, let's try this over again. I believe that everything should have flexibility. Nothing is cast in stone. We can't put ourselves in a box and be rigid because people are human and things that we say to them, it affects their entire life if we're talking negativity. And I don't want to be that person. I want to be positive. I want people to take what I teach them and build their own legacy, whatever they're going to do with it, create a legacy and satisfy their life needs.
Oh, I love that. So what's next for you? What ambitions are still driving you forward?
You're not going to believe this, but I'm not going to teach any more live classes unless I'm hired by an organization just to teach their staff or employees, or like a state agency who wants training for a department. So I'm moving away from live training to spend more time as a caregiver for my husband. But I'll always teach online until I can't sit in this chair and be at a computer anymore. I'm learning who I am. I'm discovering things that I like that I never had time before, like jumble word puzzles and, playing games on my tablet, telling other people to always, when they have their business, always make a profit, always set aside reserves, because you don't know when that bottom is going to fall out economically, because everything we do depends on the world's economy, not just the United States economy. And what's going to happen the day that we go to the bank with an ATM card and the machine isn't working, that it shut down because the bank doesn't want to run on it. So I look at all those factors and it's like, have a plan. Do something that gives you satisfaction, but because you're making good money, maybe for the first time in your life, don't buy that jewelry. Don't buy that car. Don't buy those designer clothes. Don't buy into the rich and famous life, because you'll be broke and poor before you know it.
Oh, that's such good advice. Thank you so much, Dr. Browning. And thank you, everyone that joined us today. If you found value in this conversation, please subscribe, leave a review, and share the Empowered Money Girl with your friends. The more we spread these stories, the more women we can empower to live boldly, both financially and every part of her life. Until next time, keep thriving, and remember, your journey to empowerment starts with you.